This next piece was written by Alistair from Holland, or the Netherlands, whichever you prefer. And it's based on an on-the-ground report in France of what's been going on with the violence and the injuries to the Yellow Vest movement. And essentially, France is on the verge of civil war or a military coup, and the Yellow Vest movement is making a momentum as a worldwide protest against the globalists, the oppression, and also the exploitation of the people. In Europe, there have been protests in France, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Finland, Germany, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Holland, Portugal, Serbia, Spain, United Kingdom and Turkey, as well as various other countries outside of Europe like Canada and also Australia. In France, the Yellow Vest movement is huge. Every week, hundreds of thousands of people march the street, and on January 19th, last week, it was the 10th week of protests. Demonstrations took place in more than 50 major cities throughout France and thousands of manifestations. The mainstream propaganda media lies about the number of participants. They claim that in the past weeks throughout France, 84,000 people participated. This is a blatant lie, as the police admitted they had mobilised 80,000 police officers for the Yellow Vest protests. And according to the French Police Syndicate of Angry Police Officers, SFP, in the past 2 weeks there's been an average of 55,000 demonstrators each week. Extreme police violence and disproportionate weapons is the next part. The mainstream propaganda media suggests that the demonstrators are violent and the police therefore need to defend themselves with heavy armour and weaponry. The truth is that the protesters are primarily peaceful and unarmed, where the police forces exhibit extreme violence against the people. The police forces are often the aggressors, and there have been many reports that they deliberately escalate a peaceful demonstration by attacking the crowd with tear gas and also water cannons. Also, reports of them throwing hand grenades or shooting with LBD 40 guns, known as the flashball gun. The injuries caused by these LBD 40 guns, the newer model, or flashball guns, the older model, are compatible with war injuries one sees on a battlefield. The mainstream media uses the euphemism rubber bullet or ball of defence, but this projectile that is fired at 100 metres per second causes very serious injuries, mutilations of the face, skull fractures, brain injuries and internal bleedings. There have been more than 100 severely injured casualties and at least 10 deaths. The French police union SFP confirms that primarily the innocent bystanders are hit by this weapon and not the rebels and the troublemakers. A few examples of the casualties of police violence on French TV: a 19-year-old girl spoke about how a flashball fractured her jaw. She had to have 3 surgeries and since has a major scar on the side of her mouth. Additional surgeries will be required in order to repair the damage. In the same TV show, Antoine Boudinette, a young guy, told the reporter how he lost his hand after the CRS police, military police, had thrown a hand grenade into the crowd. His right hand was amputated. Several protesters lost their hands also, and at least 15 people lost their eye as a result of being hit by the flashball. One of the victims is a 15-year-old girl. Several videos shot from different angles show how Olivier Béziers was fleeing from a tear gas attack and chased by a squad of CRS military police. He ran into a quiet shopping street and was of no threat to the police, and he was shot by a flashball, hit him in the head, and he fell unconscious flat on his face. He is still in a coma. He suffers a cerebral hemorrhage, and it is unclear whether he will ever recover. He is a father of 3 children and worked as a volunteer at the local fire brigade. He is one of many with severe brain injuries that are in a coma currently. You can check out the many videos yourself on the Twitter account of twitter.com. I'll have to spell that out. NIEMANDSKNEGT. Or you can go to the French journalist twitter.com/davduf, DAVDUF. The Ombudsman and medical specialists demand a ban on flashball guns is the next section. These are just a few examples of the innocent victims that have suffered unacceptable injuries as a result of a disproportionate police violence. They are permanently scarred for life. There are hundreds of these stories, and the journalist David Dufresne meticulously collects the statistics about these injuries. When he presented his results in a French TV show, he broke down in tears. Throughout France, special interest groups and medical specialists such as plastic surgeons, specialised in facial transplantations, have now demanded a ban on these weapons altogether. Amnesty International already wrote a letter to the French Minister of Internal Affairs back in 2002 to refrain from using flashball guns. The minister almost immediately ignored this advice. In 2015, also the Defender of Rights called for a ban on this type of guns, given the serious injuries these weapons can cause, also for bystanders. Next section, pressure within the police department. Several police unions raised questions about the orders from higher-ups, commanding to shoot with the LBD-40 guns. But the pressure among the police is enormous, and there is little to no room for critical questions or disobedience. The suicide level is skyrocketing. Already 7 police officers committed suicide in the first 3 weeks of this year. Many officers call in sick, and many are on the verge of a burnout, especially since they've been having to work long working days, 6 days a week, under extreme pressure from both sides of the conflict. The police union SFP wrote an open letter to President Macron to renounce the violence and his orders to attack, but Macron and his ministers won't budge. Macron tries to even escalate the situation by setting up different groups against each other, all very familiar, and it looks like they are trying to create as many injuries as possible to set an example. This is a form of state terrorism. In a way, it would be best if the police would call in sick en masse. Exactly. She said this with the NYPD and the Hillary and a boomer let's skin a child's face video. So the government and the control system will lose this layer of protection. Yet there are other violent groups that have received helmets and LBD-40 flashball guns or even iron bars. They are not part of the irregular police, as they are often not wearing a uniform. They are chasing people down the streets like vicious bloodhounds to attack anyone with a yellow vest, and it is unclear whether they are part of La BAC, or BAC, La Brigade Anti-Criminalite, or a group of mercenaries. I would suggest the latter. They are wearing masks because they're cowards, and nobody knows where they came from, who they are, and if they are even French to begin with. These groups are extremely violent and try to cause as much damage as possible. This is what happened in the Lavoie-Finicum case. French mercenaries, remember, were the ones that were causing the violence. and possibly the ones that shot Lavoy Finicum also. Nothing to do with the police. French mercenaries, same people, probably related to the Blackwater Group and Eric Prince, or something similar anyway. The victims are not necessarily standing on the front line either. People are chased in the streets by police squads and mercenaries, and even attacked while waiting for the bus to go home. They're also attacking women and children. There are several videos of a single woman being attacked by a dozen heavily armoured military police officers and beaten to a pulp. Even first aid volunteers and the press are attacked by either the CRS, police, La BAC, or one of these mercenary groups. This is clearly against the Geneva Convention. Next section. France is reaching the breaking point. Thousands of demonstrators have been arrested, including a 13-year-old girl, and their only felony was that they demonstrated without permission to protest, or being outside of the restricted zone. When the people need permission to protest or voice their opinion, this is a clear sign there is no real democracy. The French people are waking up en masse to the harsh reality of the oppressive control structure that will clearly go to any length to protect the system. I think we are getting close to the point where the elastic band in France will snap. Yes, indeed. I think there is a likely scenario that the military will step in when Macron decides to use live ammunition, and there are reports of CRS police seen with semi-automatic weaponry. There are unconfirmed reports that these weapons were actually used during Saturday's protest on January the 19th, and December the 7th, 2018, a number of French generals wrote an open letter to Macron when he signed the Marrakesh Treaty and accused him from treason and betrayal of the French people. A military coup is certainly a realistic scenario that could play out, given the serious situation France is in, and the Yellow Vest movement is no longer just a protest against eco-tax, the increase of living costs, or political positions. It is an outright revolt against the government. Macron and his stooges need to go. He does not seem to understand his position, has become untenable by allowing this type of violence in a desperate attempt to hold his position. And whatever happens next, it will be hopefully cleared away for a new political system of true democracy. I'm told that whole piece was written by Alistair, and we thank her for that, for giving us that update. We will highlight certain things in shows. I have another similar piece ready for next week's show, but there was too much in this show to add another piece in that came in today. But to add to what Ella stated in that piece, the Yellow Vest movement, she said there was various places, there's been more added, and it's now in France, Taiwan, UK, Canada, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Egypt, Finland, Germany, Iraq, Ireland, Israel, Italy, Holland, Pakistan, Poland, Portugal, Russia, Serbia, Tunisia, Australia, and New Zealand. The question is, where's the Yellow Vest in America? The world's standing up. This is what we've waited for. And yes, they'll use violence and all kinds of media bullshit spin. But if no one listens to the media, they speak to nobody. That's the key. Shut down the media. Find out where they live. Tell them we don't want you in on your lies and spin, committing treason against the people and the country in our community. You don't have to use violence. In fact, I'm stressing we use no violence. All the gains that the trusts made and the banking and all kinds of other things with the taxes and the sovereignty, no one was killed. You don't have to kill people. You don't have to injure or harm people. You just have to not comply. The peoples around the world are rising up. Support them. Ignore clowns who think hats are frightening. Tell them to go back to sleep. Support the people in your country. Support the people in every other country. This is the path forward.